Alrighty, boys and girls. So after we finished the season review and doing the moving forward series yesterday, but talked about the defending MLS Cup champion Inter Miami, it's now finally time to do the season preview because we are now less than a month before the MLS regular season begin, and in some cases, we're going to see MLS team play in competitive action as soon as next week. And the one team that is going to be doing that is San Diego FC. They are going to be back in competitive action as soon as next week. In fact, what's kind of bizarre about San Diego in terms of the beginning of the season is the fact that they are going to be playing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but they are not only the first MLS team to be playing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but they are one of those early ones where it feels like the first round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup are kind of like split into two different day where you have the first batch of games that's happening on February 3rd and February 10th, and then you got the second batch of game that is happening around February 17th and February 24th. And San Diego is the only MLS team that's kind of in the first batch of games. So as a result, it kind of creates this very bizarre situation where they're going to have to be the first MLS team to play a competitive game very early into the season. And even if they do advance against Pumas, they still will have pretty much 2 weeks before their first competitive game in MLS is going to happen. So it will be very interesting to see how Mikey Veras and this team will figure it out with the fact that it's pretty clear that they're still kind of in preseason mode, but it's kind of bizarre the fact that as they prepare for the MLS regular season, they will have two competitive games, and then that's pretty much it before the first game of the MLS regular season begin. Now that being said, in terms of last season, it was a Cinderella story for San Diego FC, the best expansion team we ever seen in club history. Of them finished first in the Western Conference with a 19-6-9 record and finished with 65 points or 63 points. I'm sorry. Last playoff appearance, well, it was last year. They went all the way to the Western Conference final, but unfortunately eliminated by the Vancouver Whitecaps. Obviously, they never won MLS Cup because if they would have won MLS Cup, it would have been last year of them doing something similar to what the Chicago Fire did in their expansion season back in 1998. And normally, I also look at their last five season that is, but this is only their second season, so I'm not gonna put the stats in terms of the last five season because literally the last season uh stats is already put on the board right now. So look at some of the transfer that they've done this off season. It's been kind of quiet off season for San Diego. They and I guess maybe it's due to the fact that this they don't want to change too much in terms of trying to keep the structure in this team back heading into the second season. I mean, I talked about last season with their expansion season of the roster that they made. And I guess this is might be something that we see with young MLS team coming in, especially in their second season, where maybe they don't want to make too much movement, especially of how success the first season is. They don't want to make too much movement to really kind of change the momentum heading into the second season. But that being said, they did bring two new signings so far. They got Morgan and Oswald. So Lewis Morgan, of course, coming from the New York Red Bulls. I thought this was a really good signing for San Diego, considering yes, I know he is injury prone, but when he is healthy, he's definitely a guy that can really help that attack and really kind of carry the pressure off of Anders Jarl in terms of the goal scoring department for this team. And then getting Oswa. So looks like this is a defensive depth of the San Diego team. It needed heading into this upcoming season. Now, when it comes to players that's no longer on this team, you got Hank Ken Brutsov, a guy that just never really worked out for the San Diego team. Corey Bear, who is of course is now oh god, who did Corey Bear just join? I can't quite remember which team he's just joined this offseason on top of mine. But I do know that Luca Del Torre, of course, no longer on this team. He's now with Charlotte FC, and then you also don't have Aiden Harenga, who I believe he's now back in Germany with Eintracht Frankfurt. They didn't hear any news about him signing a permanent deal with the San Diego team after being on loan with this team. And then I also put Chucky Lozano on that list of out as well with a question mark. It is not official yet that Chucky Lozano has officially departed from this team. In fact, if you look at the San Diego roster and you look on their team website, Chucky Lozano is still labeled as one of the designated player on this team, but it's pretty clear that yeah, he might as well just not be on this roster and probably will not be uh putting on the San Diego FC jersey ever again because as we talk about in the moving forward series, and as we'll talk about again in this season preview about San Diego, this is definitely an ongoing situation that it's kind of starting to turn very ugly. It's one of those ugly kind of divorce that a team really wants to, but players, Chucky Lozano, you said the fact that he's happy to stay with San Diego, even if he's not getting minutes and probably are not never gonna be putting on the San Diego FC jersey ever again because of all the bridges that's been burnt this offseason as well. Uh, Looking at their CONCACAF Champions Cup opponent again, it's again very bizarre the fact that they play so early and they're not going to have like an MLS game after these two-legged affairs. So in many ways, it's kind of like they have like two preseason. They have the first preseason to prepare for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and then they have like a little mini second preseason after the two-legged affair against Pumas to prepare for the regular season. Speaking of Pumas, that's going to be the opponent that they're going to be facing. The first leg will be in San Diego on February 3rd, and then the second leg will be happening on February 10th. Pumas as well. So yeah, it's not going to be easy. And anytime when I talk about MLS team have to face against Liga MX's opponent straight away in the first round, that's always going to be tough. And for San Diego, they kind of got the wrong end of the stick in terms of have to get a tough opponent, and it's the first time they get a chance to show what they made of in terms of the international stage. It's also not the first time that San Diego has faced against a Liga MX team. We kind of saw it in the League Cup. We even see it in some of their some of their mid-season friendly that they had against Cholos as well, and they did pretty well. And we'll see whether or not if they can do so against a Pumas team that last season they were able to move on I believe it into the quarterfinal, and if it wasn't for Vancouver with that dramatically game winner, Pumas would have probably moved on into the semifinals. So this is not a Liga MX team that San Diego is going to have to take lightly heading into this game. Now, look at the first five games of the season. So again, once they finish their two-legged affair against Pumas, whether they win or not. They got 2 weeks before the first game begins on February 21st. Well, actually, less than 2 weeks, that is. It's probably about like 10 days, that is. But their first game is going to be a home opener against Montreal before they play at home against St. Louis City. Then they go on the road against Sporting KC before go on the road against FC Dallas and then return at home to face against RSL. So pretty easy to start the season. I mean, when you look at the team that they'll be facing. Their first three teams that they'll face did not make the playoffs last season. Dallas probably might be the toughest opponent that they might face, but then after that, facing against an RSL team that's kind of building heading in the season, it's definitely a favorable schedule for San Diego. They can definitely get off to a good start, just like what we saw last season as well. Now their last five games are a little tougher. They go on the road to face against the Galaxy before returning home to face against the Sounders. Then they go on the road to face against the Vancouver Whitecaps. Something tells me that maybe could be a battle between some of the top team in the West by the end of the season, just like what we saw last season, that is. Then they go on the road to face against St. Louis, and they do finish the season on decision day at home against Sporting KC. So they do have a pretty easy decision day game. Sporting KC is a team that many feel is not going to do too much this season as well, and is in the midst of a rebuild as well. But when you look at the other games, not easy, especially this stretch where they have to face against the Galaxy, Seattle, and Vancouver. All three of those teams are teams that I think can definitely make it to the playoffs and still be competitive. That is. Now, look at the strength of this team. I'm going to say it's the midfield and the defense. And yes, I know that they do lack a little bit in terms of midfield depth, but when you do have a good midfield, I think this midfield is very decent. Especially you have one of the most underrated number 6 in Yepi Vorskov, and also you have a guy called Onderstraw who, if it wasn't for Messi last season, he would have won MVP as well. And then on the defensive end, they have some pretty good defenders in this team. I'm also interested to see, in terms of the goalkeeping position, who's going to be the starting goalkeeper of this team, because last season we saw CJ Dos Santos, of course, being the main goalkeeper for the most part of the season, but then he really took a big dip of form to a point where Pablo Cesiaga basically stepped in, and we'll see whether or not if Cesiaga might be the guy to do so. Considering when he came in, he actually looked pretty decent when he came into that spot. The weakness of this team is obviously the lack of nine. The number nine position is a position that San Diego's been trying to figure out. And I know some people say, well, they have Amal Pellegrino up there last season, and he did pretty well near the end of the season. Yes, he did do pretty well. He definitely found himself some form, especially finally breaking his goal first. But there's no guarantee that of course, can happen again. Again, heading into this season, and then after that, I mean, there's a lot of question mark after who is the number nine. I mean, the other number nine they have is Thomas Angel, who is at very best a mediocre number nine on this team, and then they also have Marcus Iverson, who is also cannot stay healthy on this team. He spent more time on the IR than actually being healthy last season as well. So the number nine position is definitely going to be an area that they'll have to address, and it's no surprise that that's actually one of my big question of this team. But obviously, the biggest question of this team is still the Shogi Lozano situation. And I said this before, this is very similar to the Lorenzo Insigne situation where a club, right, dealing a guy that is kind of going through a holdout period, and that now the fact that Chucky Lozano have simply said that he doesn't want to leave. It creates a very difficult goal situation, and it's also where a buyout I think is probably going to be the most likely option for San Diego to cut ties with, but that's still a lot that San Diego will have to afford if they do trigger the buyout. But anyway, this situation, I think the longer this situation is going to go, the more I don't think this is going to help San Diego. I mean, you don't want to have a situation where one of your DP is not only sitting on the bench, but one of your DP is basically clearly use it as a black hole on your team. And when you want to be a competitive team, you don't want to have that situation when you literally have to have one of your DP that is a huge black hole for your spot. So we'll see as the season goes along how they're going to deal with this situation, and especially I'm pretty sure there are going to be more Liga MX team that's looking to try to get him. I mean, originally Cruz Azul was supposed to be the team that was going to get him off the hands of San Diego, but it seems like that move has kind of stalled out in recent time. And then, of course, the number nine position. Besides the fact that Chucky Lozano does occupy one of the DP spot, they do actually have one DP spot open. In fact, they also have when you look at the premium roster rule, I mean, they have two of their free DP spot filled, and it's the same with the U22 initiative spot as well. So they can definitely add a DP or a U22, or they can add two U22 initiative and go with a 2 DP and 4 U22 system as well. So it'll be interesting to see will they of course do so, or maybe they'll just wait until the summer transfer window, and maybe that's where they can definitely do some business, especially once they figure out this tricky Lozano situation with them kind of opening a DP spot. Maybe that's when they will go big DP be hunting for the remaining of the off season and figure out the biggest weakness and the biggest roster hole that this team has heading into this season. But that being said, I've said this before in the moving forward series episode. I know San Diego fans are not going to take this kindly, but I do think that they are going to suffer a regression this season. How much of it that will all depends on whether or not if Mikey Veras can definitely make some adjustment in terms of his tactics and kind of make some evolution to this the tactics, and also maybe continue to add some talent as well, because with the way that it's been a quiet off season for them, I mean, there's two way you can look at it. When you have a quiet off season, it could be a reason because you were so good last season, which San Diego definitely was, that you don't really need to make too much chances. You can always just run it back again. But sometimes we see with the way that it feels like every off season teams are improving, you don't want to always just stand pat and basically not make too much move to continue to improve the team, because the league is going to continue to improve as the season goes along. And with the way that they kind of have a pretty quiet off season, you just wonder whether or not if they might be left behind because of it. And not to mention, I even said before, last season there was so many games last season that they were bailed out by some high in talent in games that they were pretty much outplayed. I mean, under Shar last season, the amount of time he bailed out the team last year, I have a feeling he's going to do the same thing this year as well. But I don't expect that's going to be sustainable heading into this season, and that's where the regression might hit with this team. And not to mention, I'm pretty sure teams have now got a book on Mikey Veras in terms of the system that he runs. I'm pretty sure that every single team is going to try to be a little bit more aggressive against the San Diego team and maybe force them to not have as much possession. And when they do find themselves in a game where they don't have like a lot of possession against another team, or the fact that they find themselves against a team that likes to hit on the transition, because at times when it comes to dealing with transition last season, San Diego did have some issue with that last year as well. That's going to be something that I think Mikey Veras is going to have to figure out and maybe evolve the tactics a little bit heading into this season. So, looking at my prediction, this is where I kind of predict exactly how high and the ceiling of this team is going to be, and what's like their floor that is. The ceiling, I'm going to say they might finish second in the league. I mean, I know some San Diego fans won't be happy because that means that I put them one place below that they did this season. But with the way that the West it has gotten much stronger, and you look at other teams that have definitely got stronger this season, I would be very surprised if they once again finish first in the West. And plus, when you look at the past couple of seasons in the West, we usually don't see a repeat place team unless, of course, your name is LAFC. That is. The lowest, I think they're gonna finish eighth. I don't think this team is going to miss out on the playoff, even with their floor. But if things are starting to be tough with this team, and especially with the regression kind of hit, I won't be surprised they might be a team that could drop as low as being a fringe playoff team, especially if they don't add more pieces on this team and also kind of address their midfield depth situation that they do kind of have a bit of an issue heading into this year, besides the lack of number 9. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at San Diego in this season preview. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video. And if you're a San Diego fan, what do you think is the strength, the weakness, the free big question heading into this season? And what's your prediction is going to be this season? Where are they going to finish this year, and how far they, of course, can make it into the playoffs as well. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.